At first, no one expected anything extraordinary to come from the announcement. Yulong and Yang Mei Mei appeared together as they had countless times before, calm, composed, dressed simply, their expressions controlled in a way audiences had grown used to. But something was different. It wasn't what they said at first, it was the pause before they spoke. The silence stretched just long enough to feel deliberate, heavy, charged. And in that brief moment, many sensed that whatever was coming next would change how their story was understood forever. Yulong was the first to break the silence. He did not smile. He did not soften his tone. "We want to speak honestly today," he said, looking straight ahead, not as actors, not as public figures, just as two people who have shared a long road together. Young Mei Mei sat beside him, her hands folded tightly, breathing slow but uneven, as if steadying herself for something she had been holding in for a long time. What followed was not a dramatic confession, nor a sudden emotional outburst, but something far more unsettling in its simplicity. They revealed that after completing their 40th project together, scheduled to wrap at the end of 2026, they would make a decision that had nothing to do with scripts, contracts, or audience expectations. They would decide, together, whether to bring a child into the world. The room shifted instantly. Young Mei Mei spoke next, her voice quieter but unmistakably firm. "We didn't want this to be speculation anymore," she said. "For years people have guessed, accused, imagined things about our lives, but this is something we will decide on our own terms. After our 40th film ends, after everything we owe to our work is complete, we will decide whether we are ready to become parents." It was not the announcement itself that shocked people. It was the timing, the condition, and the honesty behind it. For nearly a decade, Yulong and Yang Mei Mei had been inseparable on screen. Their chemistry was legendary, dissected by fans, praised by critics, monetized by studios. 40 projects together was not an accident. It was the result of relentless demand, strategic casting, and a public fascination that never seemed to fade. But behind that success was a reality they rarely addressed. They had postponed nearly every personal decision in favor of professional survival. Yulong admitted it openly. "We delayed everything," he said. "Marriage, rest, even the idea of a future that didn't involve a camera. Not because we didn't want those things, but because there was always another project, another obligation, another reason to wait." Yang Mei Mei nodded, her eyes briefly closed before she spoke again. "People think pregnancy is something you decide lightly, like it's just an announcement. For me, it was terrifying to even think about while we were still filming nonstop. I didn't want to bring a child into a life where I was never present." What stunned many was not just their plan, but the clarity of their boundaries. They were not promising a baby, they were promising a decision, made privately, deliberately, after a chapter that had consumed most of their adult lives finally closed. Then came the detail no one expected. Yulong revealed that their 40th film would also be their last long-term collaboration as a fixed pairing. "We don't know what happens after that," he said, "individually or together, but we know that after that film, our lives cannot continue the same way." The implications rippled instantly. A career-defining duo stepping back, a possible pregnancy not driven by pressure, but by closure, a future deliberately left uncertain. Yang Mei Mei's composure cracked briefly as she added, "I don't want to become a mother while I'm still running. If I do this, I want to stop, even just for a while. I want to be there, fully. That matters more than any role." The honesty of that statement unsettled fans and industry insiders alike. In an environment where stars often announce pregnancies as triumphs or scandals, this was different. It was careful, it was conditional, it was human.
Yulong looked at her then, not at the cameras. "If we do this," he said, quietly, "it won't be because the world expects it. It will be because we finally have the courage to choose ourselves." Speculation exploded almost instantly. Was this a farewell, a soft retirement, a controlled step away from fame? Or was it simply two people reclaiming autonomy after years of being consumed by success? They addressed none of it directly. Instead, Mei Mei offered one final thought that lingered long after the microphones were lowered. People think love is about big gestures. For us, love has been about endurance, about waiting, about surviving together. And now, maybe, about allowing something new when the time is right. There were no tears, no dramatic embraces, no definitive promises. After the microphones were lowered, the atmosphere in the room did not relax. If anything, it grew heavier. Reporters sat frozen, unsure whether to ask questions or simply absorb what they had just heard. This was not a typical celebrity announcement that could be reduced to a headline or a soundbite. It was a declaration of limits, something rarely seen in an industry built on endless access and constant consumption. Yulong broke the silence again, this time without looking at the press at all. For a long time, we lived as if our time didn't belong to us. Every year was scheduled, every choice was negotiated, even silence had a price. He paused briefly, choosing his words carefully. "This is the first decision we've made that no one else gets to influence." Mei Mei added, her voice steadier now. "People always ask when will you marry? When will you have a child? When will you stop acting? But no one asks how. How do you carry a life when you barely have space to breathe yourself? How do you protect something fragile in a world that profits from breaking things open?" She admitted that there were moments she felt guilt, not towards fans, but towards herself. "I used to think saying not now meant I was selfish. Now I understand it was the only honest answer I had." As the discussion continued, it became clear that their decision was not driven by fear, but by exhaustion, an exhaustion earned through years of relentless momentum. Yulong spoke about waking up in different cities, sometimes forgetting where he was. "I realized something was wrong when success no longer felt like relief. It felt like pressure, like debt." When asked whether they feared backlash, he did not hesitate. "Of course," he said, "but fear is no longer enough to control our lives." Mei Mei looked directly into the camera then, her expression unguarded. "If we become parents, it will not be a symbol, it will not be a storyline, it will not belong to the public, it will belong to us." That sentence alone sent another wave through social media within minutes. Some fans praised their courage, others accused them of emotional manipulation. Industry insiders debated whether this marked the beginning of their withdrawal from the spotlight, but the couple offered no clarification, no reassurance, no attempt to manage the narrative. Instead, Yulong closed with a final statement that felt less like an explanation and more like a boundary drawn in permanent ink. "We've given our youth to this industry. Now we're deciding what deserves what remains." They stood up together, not holding hands, not performing unity, just walking side by side, equal in pace, equal in resolve. No further questions were taken.